Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Millennial Wave. My name is Rachel Kayleen, and today I have with me someone by the name of Phil Hampton. And with this gentleman, I actually go back to knowing him from a coach in high school. That's how I met him. And he's a basketball coach, he's a mentor, he's someone that's very involved in the profession of real estate, and I'm really excited to hear about some of the different things that we're going to talk about, the different things that he's going to educate me on, because something that I've really kind of realized about myself is that I'm not very educated in real estate, and I feel like a lot of people within this generation or within this age range aren't either. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump right into it. Before I do, thank you for being on the podcast.
Pleasure being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to kind of hear about how you got involved in real estate, because I feel like when I met you, either I didn't know you very well or you just didn't mention it, but I didn't know if you were involved in real estate back then, or what kind of got you into that industry. I'm curious.
So the funny thing is that with me, and when I was actually in high school years ago, they had this thing where they would allow students to go 3 periods out of the day to a vocational school. And I was, at the time, in the Bay Area where I went to school, there was this program basically for code writing, because obviously in the Bay Area the industries out there are more geared towards the .com industry. So in high school, I was there writing code in high school. So the teacher chose myself and one other student to be, and he put us in a room like this, just a dark room, and he had us writing code. So I guess we were probably the better of the students in the class, and so we just sat there and we just did it. We found out afterwards that, and I was a junior in high school, we found out that he explained to us that what we were writing was a code for him on tracking the real estate market. So
wow.
In that short amount of time, this guy explains to me, and I couldn't remember his name to save my life, but he explains to me that the real estate market is reciprocal in nature. 10 years back then, 10 years in nature where whatever it's going to do, it's going to have its highs and its lows and come back to its highs again. So writing the code, this guy wanted to be able to track that with a system in place so that he could take advantage of buy low, sell high, and get an idea of when the market was going to do whatever it was going to do. So that is what originally got me interested in real estate, and I don't know why I was so intrigued by it, but 100 years ago, it feels like that's when I got involved with it. So before I relocated from the Bay Area to Sacramento, when we had an opportunity to meet, I think I was teaching full time at that point, but there was that real estate in my background that I just never pursued so much, because then there was the component of me that wanted to teach and wanted to be in the high school as a teacher. So I kind of got away, put real estate on the back burner, and was teaching full time when we met.
And what was that moment where you were like, okay, I really want to go full force in real estate? Or what was that aha moment where you were like, I think I can do this, is something I want to pursue? What was that light bulb?
Well, so again, going back on the history of understanding, ironically enough, the education had its moment where it was very volatile being a teacher. And I was teaching full-time at a charter school, but I was coaching at the high school where we met. And that was right at the time when the teachers were being pink-slipped. And I forget what year it was, but I want to say it was probably about 6-7 years ago. And so I was last in, first out. So the first year I was teaching, by the end of that year, I was one of the teachers that was pink-slipped. Oh. And at that point, I realized, I said, you know what, that's crazy that they wouldn't find a way to make sure that teachers weren't being laid off. When I moved up here from the Bay Area, there was that issue with just the economy and everything, where people were late. You know, we were graduating from college thinking the sky's the limit. We were going to have jobs of abundance, and that wasn't the case. They never prepare you for real life when things aren't going as expected and what to do next. So you come out of college thinking, I have a college degree, there's going to be a job waiting for me, I'm going to live a happy life and everything goes on. And when that doesn't happen, what now? What do I do? So relocating to Sacramento, figuring it out along the way, teaching, and then I got laid off. And then I went back to my understanding of real estate, and I said, this area here in Sacramento, seeing all the development in the Natomas community that we lived in, I said, this is a perfect area for this, and now's the right time, and I know what's going to happen. So I jumped into real estate, and sure enough, when I got into it, I rode that wave for about 2 or 3 years, and then the real estate market crashed. So
what year was this? I'm just
that the real estate market, when it turned, we're in 19 now. When it turned, I believe it was in 6. I believe it was 2006.
Oh wow.
When it turned and crashed. So real estate turns and crashes, and now so that was the order of events. Now real estate market turned and crashed. I go into teaching. I'm teaching, then I get laid off, and then the real estate market started to recover.
Okay.
And so at that point, I went from being a real estate agent, I decided to become a broker. And that made a world of difference, because now I broker my own deals. I can work for myself and not necessarily for any other particular company. So that kind of, just the life, as life
Yes.
happened, we kind of went from teaching, from real estate to teaching, back to real estate.
Yeah. And what I do want to talk about is the different things that other people should look for when they are looking for a home. But I also am curious to know why you went the broker route instead of an agent. Like, what's the difference for those of them that don't know?
So when you're an agent, you're an independent contractor that you're basically your employer is the broker of record. So you're self-employed, but he's responsible. That he or she is responsible for all of your activities, your real estate activities, and they take all the liability for all of their agents, but they get a piece. So as an agent, you might have a split as a new agent where you're doing a 50-50. So whatever commission you make, you split 50% with your broker. When you have about 10, 20 agents working for you, that's a good living for a broker.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer for me to say that my brother and I, my younger brother, who's an attorney, a local attorney here, he got his broker's license, and I took a year to learn under Capel & Capel out of the Fairfield area, and learned everything that I could, and then came from that experience and joined my brother. We started our own firm. I was an agent under his, he was a broker of record because he was an attorney. We ran the business, we did great things, and then when the market turned, went into teaching, came back to become a broker because I realized that I had enough experience from writing a program to track the real estate market, learning the business firsthand as an agent, and then partnering with my brother where we had our own company. And then I said, I really didn't need anyone else. I didn't need to learn from anyone else anymore. So then it just made sense to just take the broker's exam, be my own broker, set my own practice up, and go that route. And basically that's the difference. A broker is the boss, and an agent works underneath the broker.
Got it. Okay. So now with your current business, how does everything kind of work, if that makes sense? So you find people that want to buy a home, or are you finding the agents that want to sell people a home? And how does that whole cycle go?
So the cycle goes, so you first, you have your able-bodied individual that wants to buy a home, which just happens to be the single most significant purchase an individual can make, because you own a piece of the earth from the ground to the stratosphere. That's you. So you have, take yourself, you say, Coach Phil, I'm ready to buy. And I'm like, okay, let's go. So what I do then is you say, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, nice backyard. This is what I want. So you give me a criteria of what you want. So then I find all the listings that are available in the area that you want with your best case scenario. I email those lists to you, and then you go through and say, I want to see this, this, and this. So then we just go take a drive. We go out, we take a look at the house. These houses are listed by other agents. So they're carrying these listings. I take you there. I have now with technology, I use my phone to get us into the house. We walk in, we tour the house, we pick the one that best suits your needs, and then we look at what they're asking, and we negotiate from that. I typically give the buyers my professional opinion on what I believe based on what they're asking, what I believe the property is worth. When we look around from the carpet to the ceilings and what work might need to go into it to make it your home. And then we negotiate that with the listing agent so that we can get to a happy medium where sellers pay all the commissions. So you have an experienced professional agent working for you, and the seller's paying me for finding you your home. Right. And that's the thing that's the best part about it. You get to have the professional service that a real estate professional provides, and they're working for you and being paid by someone else. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity to say, all you need to know is what's the process. Yeah. What do I need to do when I get to that point, before I get to that point, to prepare myself to be ready to make a purchase like that.
Okay, and to talk about that, you said it's the single most important purchase that someone will make in their lifetime. And I'm always curious to hear why people buy homes, because I feel like there's so many different voices around depending on who people listen to. But I've heard things like, things to do before you buy a home and things not to do. But then also I hear people saying, don't buy what you rent what you own. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, if you own a home, rent it out. Okay. And this is for people that, no, that's why I want to talk to you. That's why I want to hear what you have to say. Because some people will say, if you're, depending on your goals and what type of lifestyle you want to live, maybe you want to buy a home, rent it out, and be able to gain cash flow from that. And then there's some people that, that's when they say own what you rent out, don't own what you rent. Does that make sense? Like, what you live in, you rent, and what you don't live in, you rent out to someone else.
Okay. Just to kind of touch on that specifically. So let's take a look at it. So you have where you're living.
Yes.
And that's what you're going to rent.
Yeah.
And rents, let's just say the rents are what, $1,200. You could have a mortgage, and let's look at the a mortgage on the median sales price. The median sales price of the home in Sacramento, let's say $320. Okay. All right, and your mortgage payment on that would be about $2,237.
Okay.
All right, so that's $1,000 more.
Yeah.
So the thing that I have with that is the benefits that you get from ownership is that, if you're going to own what you rent, and rent where you live, I mean, you're basically having somebody else pay your mortgage for you. But with a $2,200 mortgage, there's still $1,000 difference.
Yeah.
So someone else is living in your home, you get all the tax benefits of that because you get to write off the interest that you're paying on that. Yeah. And the interest that you're paying on a loan like that, just to give you just sort of an idea, is on the $2,200, the interest that you're paying on that is $1,592 is principal and interest of the $2,200. Wow. And of the $1,592, you're paying $1,158 in interest. So for the first 15 years that you own that home, the principal paying down that $320, the first year is $434 a month going towards owning that home outright. So $1,158 is going towards interest. That $1,158 is the write-off that you get at the end of the year to get money back because you get tax breaks and benefits as a homeowner. You don't get those tax breaks and benefits as a renter. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like it's sort of like it's sort of washing itself out by that mindset that unless you own it outright and it's 100% profitability for you, because somehow if you're fortunate enough to your parents left you a home and you don't want to live there but you rent it out, now you have no mortgage on that, and that's $1,200 in the positive that you're getting, that you're collecting in rents. But if you're paying a mortgage or rent somewhere else, that $1,200 you collect, it's going back out in the rent. However, it's paid for. So it's you no longer have the benefits of the tax write-off because you're not paying interest on it.
Yeah.
So it gets that kind of mindset is, it's better if I could add to that, I would say make your first purchase using a government financing, FHA. You only have to come in with 3.5% as your down payment. What that means on a $320,000 home is, with everything, about $21,000. So you're coming in with you've managed to do the right thing and save up $21,000, or you get a gift from a family member that says, I want to help you out. Now here's my $21,000. You've got your home. You get the benefits of the write-off. You're a homeowner, and now you're paying for something that you're going to eventually own. As time happens, 3-4 years, the average time that people decide to really move up or move on, 11 years. So in that time, you've benefited from the tax write-off that you get. You're a homeowner, and now your borrowing power increases, because now you've had to have a good credit score in the first place, at least a decent one. 580 can get you into something, but that's not
580. That's horrible.
That's a horrible credit score.
Yeah.
But that's also the misconception that people believe. My score is so bad, I can't do anything. 620 is where you need to be for FHA. 580 is something that you can get away with other circumstances, maybe high income, but poor credit, bad decisions during young life and college or whatever.
Yeah, makes sense.
But whatever it is, you can still get into 580. But 620 is the benchmark. Yeah. That 620, they just say, well, that's just life, and maybe not enough established credit to begin with, but we can work with that. You then build more borrowing power. So you start with an FHA loan. You buy at the right time. If everything was perfect. You bought when the market was low. You got the home that you wanted when it was at its lowest point, and then it appreciated in value while the market was doing this, moving up. And now you've got equity. Now from that 3.5% down payment, you've got 20% of equity in your home. So that 320 jumps up to about 400 now. So with $80,000 in equity, you say, okay, I'm ready to get out of this program. Now I'm just going to refinance and put myself in a different loan. And you do so, you're good. You've kind of trimmed the fat a little bit, because you're not paying mortgage insurance anymore, because you have 20% of equity in your home. Your payment is affordable. You've got the lowest possible payment with the lowest possible interest rate that you could get at the time when you did all of that. So now you're in a perfect position where you say, I've got my first one, and I've got borrowing power. So then you go pick up a condo or something else, because you can borrow some money from this, use that as your down payment to pick up your next one. You've used the perfect opportunity, because you can't buy because what we're talking about and what they're saying based on what you shared is investment properties. Buy an investment and live in a rental. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad idea, but it's a better way to go about it. Say, make your first one with the lowest amount that you would have to come out of pocket, which is 3.5%, 3 to 3.5. If that's the lowest amount of money that you have to come out to get your first property under your belt, then you allow it to build equity and grow. Then you pick up your second one. So now you upgrade where you want to be, and this becomes your rental. And now you have the write-off for both, because in the second investment property, you have to come in with at least 20% down, but you have it from this first investment. Now you have somebody helping you pay this mortgage, and you've got 2 properties, more borrowing power. Now you get a family in that home that wants to raise kids and send them to school, so they don't want to move around. They want to be there, and they rent your place out for the next 10 years while their little kids go through middle school and high school. Mm-hmm. You're winning, because now you've got a tenant in there helping you pay your mortgage, and you're the one that reaps all the benefits of home ownership. And that's, in my opinion, for the adage of rent where you live and live where you rent, that's where you really benefit. Make your first acquisition yours, and then move up from that. Upgrade yourself because now this one doesn't suit your needs. Maybe it's time to start a family. Maybe now maybe you want to downsize, maybe you want to upsize, maybe living in the suburbs and you want to be downtown and get a flat or something. Then it makes more sense to kind of make those lateral moves after you've made your first acquisition with the least amount of out-of-pocket expense. So that's what I would say to that piece. I get where the mindset is, because you don't want to buy something. You don't want to do something so that you're not benefiting from it, from the full potential of that home ownership. You know, I mean, if that were the case, buy a 4-bedroom and rent rooms out, and then you're not paying anything, but you're living comfortably with people that you're okay living with, and they're paying your mortgage, and you're still the one reaping the benefits of it. Yeah. If that's the route that you want to take, you know. But I wouldn't necessarily agree with buy a house, because the other thing is that if you had the 20% to put down, why wouldn't you live in it? And if you went the route of an FHA loan to go 3.5% down, you have to live in it, because that's part of the requirements of government financing, government assisted financing for purchasing a home. You know, you can't use government financing for investment properties, because that's basically what that whomever shared that tidbit with you, that's what they're talking about. Make an investment in a home and then rent it out to make money. Yeah. But you can only make money if the mortgage payment is low enough to do so.
Makes sense. Okay, so now kind of moving, and that's just so you know, I'm going to have to listen to what you just said like 20 times. Yeah. Just because, again, like this is an industry that I'm not very educated about, but, and I also know a lot of people out there aren't educated as they should be. Mm-hmm. So how about a couple of things maybe that people need to look for when buying a home? People, let's say people getting out of college. People getting out of college, starting their career, they feel, okay, it's time for me to buy my own home. I'm settled in. I'm good with where I'm at. I want to be able to buy a home. What are some of the things that they can do to be able to find the right home for themselves without having buyer's remorse?
Gotcha. So